Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you could join me. Well, as you can see, I'm not at the center today. This is my week off, but I'm also doing the live virtues as before. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm the teacher virtues facilitator at the Charles J. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Cheshire, Labrador. We have been looking at the strategies for the Virtues Project. We've already looked at teachable moments, and we're presently on the virtue number 2, strategy number 2 rather, which is speaking the language of the virtues. So we looked at, and under that we've looked at tapping the power of language to shape culture. We've looked at tapping the power of language to transform. The one we're looking at this morning is the virtues of acknowledgement. I'm glad everybody is safe, and we kept the virus out of our community so far, so that's a positive for sure. Okay, so using the virtues to acknowledge. Self-esteem is the sum total of the accurate, positive things we know about ourselves. That's the self-esteem. It's all of these good things that are true that we know about ourselves, okay? Children and adults as well need a good deal of mirroring when they are making an effort to develop a virtue. And mirroring, of course, is when you play back to them the good thing that they're doing, okay? They need to be told that what their behavior looks like, to have it noticed and acknowledged, not in terms of pleasing you, but of honoring their own nature. You don't want them to be doing things just to please you, because if you're not around, they can't very well please you if you're not there. So we want them to be, doing this for themselves on the inside, okay? We want them to be learning this. Look for signs of effort and then reward them, not with candy, but a virtues acknowledgement. Rather, give virtues acknowledgments at those teachable moments when a child legitimately deserves to be acknowledged. This is what leads to inner strength and authentic self-esteem. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to develop in our children, right? That inner strength and the authentic self-esteem. Excuse me. The most important time to acknowledge a virtue is when children are struggling with a virtue, which doesn't come easily to them. The most meaningful teachable moments occur when you see a child making an effort to master an as yet undeveloped virtue. So, the teachable moment again, but the virtues acknowledgement is what helps with that teaching. I know in the past, people would, don't praise them too much, it's going to go to their head, right? Don't give them too much praise, it'll go to their head. But you have to mirror it. You have to acknowledge. You have to let them know when they're doing something that's really good, okay? When a person of any age is showing uncustomary courage or a tender move toward consideration, that is just the time to say, I see your courage. Or, that was considerate of you. Thank you. A fearful person showing courage, or a typically self-centered person showing consideration, is just the person who needs that little bit of emerging light to be mirrored back to them. In this way, the language of virtues helps us to remember who we really are. Do use moderation and wisdom. You don't want to overdo praise, even in the name of virtues. Remember the last virtue we had was the moderation? Well, even in virtues, you have to be moderate, okay? Children are quite sensitive to the justice and honesty of your responses to them. The human spirit has an uncanny ability to recognize the ring of truth, even little ones, right? Children themselves know when they have done well, when they truly merit recognition. It's like when you say, "Oh, good girl." Unless you say why she's a good girl, she may think, but in her mind, I stole those cookies. Mommy don't know about it, and she's calling me a good girl. I know I'm not a good girl, right? So that's the thing you have to keep in mind there. Undeserved praise is almost as troubling to their spirits as criticism. When virtues are the focus of acknowledgement, children receive the most effective mirroring possible. It allows them to see themselves. Wow, I did do a good job with that, didn't I? And they feel that, right? Acknowledge effort by noticing, looking, smiling, or a gentle touch. It doesn't always have to be in words. It is the spirit more than the words that communicates. However, mirroring with the language of the virtues is useful when a child needs to be told what her behavior looks like. I saw you being tolerant and forgiving with your friend today when she grabbed your truck. And you could say that to a child prone to aggressive reactions. It mirrors to her the virtues you saw in her, thereby awakening and strengthening them. I noticed you were quite assertive with your friend today when she grabbed your truck. You could say that, for example, when a child tends to let other children violate her boundaries, and that awakens and strengthens her capacity to stand up for her rights. There's many ways that you can give virtues acknowledgement. I honor your courage for going into the woods to retrieve your kitty cat. A scary moment, right? I see your courage. That took a lot of courage for you to do that. To stand in front of the class and recite your poem by heart, that took a lot of courage. I'm so proud of you. So different ways that you can, mirror back to them the good things that you're seeing, You may also say, thank you for your consideration or helpfulness or kindness when the child has done something which directly affects you. Please do not don't overdo the use of thank you, okay? Such as, thank you for being peaceful. Because you don't want them to be peaceful just because the noise was getting on your nerves, right? You want them to be peaceful because you want them to learn that this is the right thing to do. Overdoing thanks places you at the center of their conscience instead of their conscience at the center of themselves, okay? So you don't want them to be doing these virtues just to please you. You're trying to get them to develop that inner strength themselves and develop the authentic self-esteem, which is what we want for our children, So I got a little exercise here on page 284. There's one here in our book. You should buy this book. Family Virtues Guide. It's got a lot of really, really good stuff in here, right? So on page 284, a couple of little scenarios here I want you to listen to. Virtues acknowledgements. Okay. Number 1, your 8-year-old son has started piano lessons and is grumbling about having to practice, but does so without having to be reminded for 3 days in a row. What virtue or virtues could you acknowledge? Like, what would you say? Think about that. He's practicing virtues and he's grumbling about having to practice, but he goes and practices for 3 days in a row without any complaints. What could you say, right? Well, you've shown great self-discipline. Steadfastness is like stick-to-itiveness, right? In other words, with steadfastness, he practice 3 days in a row and you acknowledge that, right? And it's also excellence. So, and a lot of other virtues that you could probably put in there as well. But it's an example where you would try and think of what could I say to, let them know how we feel about the self-discipline that he's showing. How about this one? Number 2, your 3-year-old touches the baby softly. Your 3-year-old touches the baby softly. What virtues could you name? What would you say? So, gentleness. I'm so proud of you being so gentle with the baby today. You're so caring for the baby. The 3-year-old touching a baby softly. And you could virtue of love and many others, right, that you could see there. And the last one. A 10-year-old has had to wait for half an hour while you finish a task. What virtue could you acknowledge? What would you say? He had to wait for a half hour, a child, a 10-year-old. Of course, patience. That little 10-year-old was certainly showing patience. Could probably teach us something sometimes, right? So anyway, those kinds of things are in this book, and it gives you some food for thought and some things to discuss with children. As a matter of fact, the sections in this book are designed in such a way that it gives the parents information that can assist them in teaching their children, Okay, so let's look at the virtue pick for today. And the virtue I picked for today is the virtue of justice. Here's the quote. He who possesses character and discrimination, who is just, speaks the truth, and does what is his own business, him the world will hold dear. And that's from the Hindu religion. So what is justice? Donnie, it's good to see you there. That's my sister. She's watching, and she had a hip replacement a couple of days ago, and there she is listening to my virtues. Love her so much and so proud of her. So happy to see her watching. So now we're going to look at the virtue of justice. Practicing justice is being fair in everything you do. It is seeing with your own eyes and not judging someone or someone by what other people tell you. It's a way of getting rid of gossiping, isn't it? Justice means that people receive what they deserve. Everyone gets his fair share. It is just for people to receive a consequence or punishment when they do something wrong. So they will remember, here's the reason for the consequence, so they will remember to do things differently next time. I always say, if there is no consequence, there is no rule. You can put all the rules in place you want, but if you don't have consequences to back them up, then the rules mean nothing. Until children develop that authentic self-esteem, where when they know there's a rule, you don't need a consequence because they're going to follow the rule anyway, okay? It is also just for people to be recognized when they are doing something right or making an improvement, especially children. And of course, that's the section we just talked about, right? We need to recognize them. Being just is standing up for your rights and the rights of other people. If someone is taking advantage of you, it is not just to allow them to continue doing it. If someone is hurting you, it is just to stop them. It is never just for strong people to hurt weaker people. Justice means that every person's rights are protected. When you practice being just, you treat each person as an individual. You don't judge people to put them in categories. You just see them one by one. Each person is an individual and a valuable individual. Every single person in the world. Because God created us all, didn't he? So why should we bother to practice justice? Well, without justice, people who hurt or take advantage of others get away with it and keep on doing it. It's like if you allow a bully to continue being a bully, he will continue to be a bully unless somebody steps in to correct his behavior, right? In teachable ways and, Without justice, the world can be a cruel and dangerous place. People are judged or treated differently because of their sex, race, or religion. Innocent people, like young children, suffer for no reason. People with wealth and power get away with things that poor people cannot. We need justice in order to protect the rights of everyone, not just the rich. When justice is practiced, people can expect to receive what they deserve. If they work to earn money, they receive it. If they do something well, they are recognized and rewarded for it. If they are accused of something, they have a chance to say what really happened and to be heard fairly. When people are being just, they don't separate themselves from other human beings because they look or sound different or come from a different culture. Everyone has a fair chance to be seen for who they are. When there is justice, everyone receives a fair share. So how do you practice justice? Besides being a judge? I don't know. Yes, I do. I do know. So here's how you practice justice. We all have that responsibility, okay? Not judges and police officers, and we all do. Being just is investigating the truth for yourself, accepting what others say only as their opinion. You see the facts with your own eyes and ears. You think for yourself. When you are just, you act without prejudice by seeing each person as an individual. You don't decide things about them because of their race, color, nationality, religion, or sex, whether they are fat or thin, rich or poor. When you are just, you admit your own mistakes and accept the consequences. You share with others so everyone has a fair share. When you're practicing justice, you don't gossip or find fault behind someone's back. It wouldn't be fair because they aren't there to tell their side of things. If you have a problem with someone, you go directly to that person and work things out. When you are being just, you stand up for yourself and for others. You don't accept it when someone acts like a bully, cheats, or lies. Being a champion for justice takes courage. Sometimes when you stand for justice, you stand alone. Isn't that amazing? Sometimes when you stand for justice, you stand alone. And of course, with gossiping and backbiting, we know that usually what you're hearing is, one-sided and usually said in a way that's embellished to make it interesting for the hearer. So what are the signs of success? If you are practicing justice, okay, here's your success. When you think for yourself, you are practicing justice when you look for the truth by investigating things for yourself. When you avoid gossiping and backbiting. When you refuse to prejudge, see people as individuals. When you own up to your mistakes and accept the consequences. When you share fairly with others. When you stand up for others' rights, including your own. There's an affirmation. I act with justice. I investigate the truth for myself and form my own opinions. I do not gossip or backbite. I stand up for the rights of others and myself. So, very, very interesting, to say the least. I have a quote or two here I want you to listen to. Here's one here by that famous person. Everyone heard of him, I'm sure. His name is Confucius. A man who knows he has committed a mistake and doesn't correct it is committing another mistake. That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. Strive ye then with all your heart to treat compassionately all humankind, except for those who have some selfish private motive or some disease of the soul. Kindness cannot be shown the tyrant, the deceiver, or the thief, because far from awakening them to the error of their ways, it maketh them to continue in their perversity as before. And that's by Abdu'l-Baha. If you, for example, if you know someone is telling lies, and you sit there and listen and yeah, and accept the lies that are being told, then the person thinks it's okay to lie, and you become that ear that gives them that opportunity. I know it's difficult. It's difficult to bring people to account when they are lying. You know, it's not an easy task when you have to say, you know, I don't believe you're telling the truth. That can cause a lot of ruffles, to say the least, right? Here's another one. The best beloved in all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom if thou desirest me, and neglect it not that I may confide in thee. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others, and shalt know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. Ponder this in thy heart, how it behoveth thee to be. Verily, justice is my gift to thee, and the sign of my loving kindness. Set it then before thine eyes. And that's by Baha'u'llah, who is the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. So I find that actually very, very interesting as well. Something for you to think about. What are some times you have wished for justice? Think about that. What are some times you have wished for justice? This one. What are some boundaries or ground rules that keep us safe? That's a good one now to talk about with your children, right? What are the rules? Think about them. What keep us safe, right? A stop sign can keep us safe. Look both ways before you cross the street can keep us safe. So that you can get a little conversation going with your children about that, right? And why it is just, you know, it is justice. It's just to have rules in place for our safety. And the last one here. What would you do if you saw bullying? What would you do if you saw bullying? How would you stay safe while doing something to stand up for the rights of those being bullied? Again, it's a tough one, right? You don't like seeing people bullied. I know I have one granddaughter that I know if she got bullied and the other granddaughter was there, there would be intervention, to say the least, right? But as long as it's in the you know, the line of justice and you're doing the right thing, right? You know. So I don't know if you ever heard this one before, but what goes around comes around. That's anonymous. What goes around comes around. So if you're going to do something unjust to somebody, be careful, because that may come back on you, right? You know. Anyway, it's nice to see some people tuning in. And of course, if you missed it today at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be posting it very shortly. And so you get an opportunity to listen to it again. So again, I've learned some things from this, and I certainly hope you do. And again, stay safe. Don't let the virus into our communities. I think we're doing an excellent job with that so far. And my sister Donnie, I hope you're up and walking around in the next day or two. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Okay, so until Wednesday at 10 o'clock, bye for now.